Hello guys and welcome back to another show, another live research on PropsMadness. Looking forward to your guys' questions. You know how it goes. Ask questions. I'll first go through a couple of my own example until some of the questions rack up in the chat. But yeah, this show doesn't run without your questions, so make sure to hit me up. Ask questions about player props, ask questions about PropsMadness, ask questions about private betting overall. Any questions, more than welcome. I'm a professional sports bettor. I am a co-founder of PropsMadness. I bet every day. I bet for a living. So any question works. Feel free to ask. So without further ado, I'll dive into some angles I think make sense for today. One of them was Donovan Mitchell over 26.5 points. It moved for a reason. I'll show you why I like 26.5. Open this. First off, went to the last couple of games. I've seen that he's hit 28 plus in 5 out of the last 6. And looking at closing lines, 29.5, 27.5, 28.5, 28.5, and so on, so on. And now we got 26.5. So I was like, okay, this is interesting. Let's see why is it set at 26.5. So I was like, okay, let's do Evan Mobley in the lineup, Darius Garland in the lineup, and looking at Jarrett Allen in the lineup. But that doesn't change much with Jarrett because he's just a run and dunk big. So with Mobley, with Garland, with expected minutes, and the average is 31.4. Kind of weird game against the Spurs and the Houston Rockets, but those teams are great on defense. So he scores 42% of his points in the paint. So I was like, okay, when we exclude top 10 teams in paint defense, he covered this in 11 out of 12 games, averaging 34 points, and other scored 46 against the 76ers. So I was like, okay, this is a bet at 26.5. Looks great. So yeah, that was the first angle. First one that I found interesting on this slate. Second one was obviously Jazz and Bulls. When you have Jazz and Bulls playing, two high-paced teams, horrible defense, you always can find some good overs to bet. So starting with this one, I went to the Nikola Vucevic threes. Put expected minutes, kind of adjusted it a bit, lowered the maximum amount of minutes and moved the lowest to 30 because he's playing a ton of lately. Last night he played 37 minutes, 32 plus in 5 straight games. So matchup wise, last in the league, bottom last, like dead last in the league in catch and shoot defense, dead last in pick and roll rollman defense, dead last in above the break threes. So perfect matchup for threes, honestly. And when we look at the defense versus position, so the teams that allow threes to bigs, mostly playing drop coverage. When we check bottom of the league teams, Nikola Vucevic covered this in 8 out of 9 games, averaging 3 threes. Definitely interesting. Already played against the Jazz this season, made 3 threes on 8 attempts. Another one that looked absolutely great. Good spot. This moved, everything moved because everything that's off by a few cents or a point moves throughout the day. So you need to be early if you are betting your own stuff, especially researching with PropsMadness. Another one, don't know if this one moved yet, but was OG Anunoby. Yeah, still some lines at 14.5, but was definitely interesting to see OG Anunoby with expected minutes, with make sure to include all the games with Brunson playing and with Towns playing, looking at the entire season. 17 points average, over in 15 out of 22. If you take a look at the matchup, Kings. I just said Kings. Don't think I need to go any further for the matchup. It's the Kings. Third worst defense in the league. Second most points allowed in the paint. Average allowed in catch and shoot stuff and transition. So similar players killing it. So when you look at the games when he played teams outside of top 10 in defensive rating or below average in defensive rating, scoring goes up. Obviously, covered this in 7 out of 8 games. Absolutely amazing matchup. So without going deeper, I'm waiting for your questions and I'll then dive into them. First question in the chat asked, hey, huge thank you for awesome job and your team's doing. Appreciate it. Thank you for that one. Wanted to ask a little bit different question. How are you dealing with losses? I mean, yeah, it's always difficult. Not difficult, I would say, but it's never pretty. When you go on a losing streak, and it happens almost every year. I've had a difficult stretch to start the January, like 7 to 8 days straight losing. I knew I had a good bets, like 85 to 90% of them closed well. I went back to them. Would I play them again? Most of them was yes, I would. So can't do much. Variance is a bitch, especially if you're betting high variance stuff like rebounds, low lines for assist or threes. That's high variance stuff. So yeah, you just need to be like confident in your approach, confident in stuff you're betting, and yeah, it does get better with experience and with time, but it never gets easy. Good morning, guys. Is Tim Hardaway Jr. over 13.5 points still a good play? Let's dive into Hardaway Jr. The 13.5, I would say, definitely still a play. Recently, he's been just killing it. The lowest amount of minutes he played was 26, and that was in a blowout against the Hawks. Last game, even though Jamal Murray played, he ended up 33 minutes against the Bucks. No Murray, he was kind of the leading player with 35 minutes. Then there is a possibility Jamal gets rested today. Against Hawks, blowout. He closed 15.5. Against the Boston, covered this much more difficult matchup, and he still ended up covering in 26 minutes. So I think this still works at 13.5 for Tim Hardaway Jr. Question about Furpy. I think they are kind of going away from him. You can see that last couple of games he played 31 minutes, then 26, then 20, and last game 16. So they're kind of going away from him. 5+ should still work, but I don't like to see this. The trend is going against him. So they are limiting his minutes. They went with him as a starter. Lost the game. Next game lowered the minutes. They won. Next game lowered even further. Blown out team. And last game won with him playing 60 minutes. So they're kind of winning, and he's getting lower amount of minutes. So wouldn't be surprised if he gets 15, 16 again. And in that case, I don't love this bet. Sharp over points question. I don't know. Last game it was a back-to-back, and he always plays more minutes on back-to-back. These kind of games, couple of games, Claxton was limited. So he also started and played big minutes. With healthy Claxton and him not being a back-to-back game, we can see that the back-to-backs he got more minutes. He's usually playing up to 20 minutes. So he's usually playing like 16 to 20 minutes. In that case, he is at 8 points average, covering only in 5 out of 13. Looking at points and rebounds, even worse, only in 4 out of 13. Though this is an unbelievable matchup. Earlier this season, he covered this in just 19 minutes with 19 points and rebounds. So great matchup, but line seems kind of adjusted for him getting a lower amount of minutes. So yeah, I don't know. Not a huge fan of this bet because yeah, looking at back-to-back is the most important one for the Aaron Sharp. As you can see, the lowest amount of minutes he got in back-to-back was 19. He averaging 21 in back-to-back games. And on the season with Claxton, he's averaging 17. So he gets extra 3 to 5 minutes in back-to-backs because Claxton is maybe tired from the earlier game. So be aware of that when evaluating Sharp. And most of his big numbers came without Claxton in great matchups. So bit inflated line, I would say. If you look at the entire season, then he gets 24, even 24, like 14 to 24. He's still at 14.7. So yeah, but matchup is obviously insane. They have poor defense against putbacks. Guys, we don't have any questions. I can see that 25 people are actually watching live and we don't have any questions in the chat. So any questions? So please hit us up with it so I can work on it. Do you find yourself using last 15 rankings more frequently now that we are in the middle of the season, or do you still prefer season long rankings? I definitely prefer season long rankings for overall, but I do look into them a bit more, especially when I see like big changes on the team. Like looking at maybe Trey Johnson playing against the Clippers. So when he gets expected minutes, he's kind of crushing this line. And looking at the opponent matchup, you can see Clippers ranked 24th on the season in defensive rating, 22nd in above the break 3 defense, which looks like a perfect matchup for Trey Johnson. And then when we look at the last 10, we can see that they are actually 13 in defensive rating and 5th best against above the break 3. So last 15 definitely can help you find some changes on the teams. Maybe even like looking at the 76ers now that Embiid is back. On the season, 76ers 11th defensive rating and 27th above the break 3. And then look at the last 15, 8. So they improved from 11th to 8th best defensive rating. So kind of, yeah, it's from experience. Like I know some teams have like improvements, changes. So then I definitely want to check last 15 rankings. Back to the chat. Mitchell Robinson. Okay, first John Collins double-double. John Collins double-double. That will need for him to rebound, and I don't know how this guy can't rebound for God's sake, but he can't rebound. And if Zubac is playing, yeah, he is not getting rebounds. Without Zubac, also not getting rebounds. So I don't know what's the thing with this guy. Price is, I wouldn't even call it a great price, honestly. Like plus 400 on a double-double for a guy that doesn't rebound well. I don't know. Obviously, the best possible matchup for rebound. So, if you like it, sure. I usually don't bet big on the rebounds, especially if it's a blowout game. He's averaging 5 rebounds a game, so 6.5 lines seems adjusted already. Next one, Mitchell Robinson points. Mitchell Robinson points. I mean, he's playing against the Kings and getting 4.5 line. So I don't know. Definitely can see him getting some putbacks against this horrible defense, like single players by position, killing it. Jackson Hayes had 5.5 line, got 12 points, but Steven Adams had only 3. 0 field goal attempts. So I don't know. Think it's rough. He needs to make free throws, and this is a guy that had like 20% from free throw line earlier into the season. So tough one. Moving on to the next question. I was looking at Josh Hart over 11 points last night, but I don't know if I should be worried about him just coming back from the injury. I usually take care. I'm usually being cautious and careful when the guys are in the first game back from the injury, but they look great in the first game back. That's it for me. If it's not a back-to-back game, I kind of like it. So first game back, he scored 18 points. That's like the highest points he scored in like last 7 games. So that looks I don't think you should be worried about that thing. When he gets expected minutes, so far this season, last 20 games, he covered this in 16 out of 20. Now playing the Kings, one of the worst defensive teams in the league, one of the worst. Like, they allow the most of points under 10 feet. He's scoring half of his points there. Horrible against free throws, average transition. Like, yeah, definitely like this one. You have minus 130 is a bit juiced, but 12.5 plus 100. I mean, he does score 12 a lot, so either way should work. Next question. Obviously playing the Kings, so Kings are always like a nice matchup for the overs, especially on the guys like good cutters. Like, teams usually ignore him, so they should focus on Jalen Brunson and Towns. Brandon Ingram question from the chat. Maybe, yeah. I need to drink something. Damn, this is a beautiful, very, very beautiful shot map. We can see that he scores 50% of his points from mid-range. He now gets the best matchup in the league on on mid-range. You can see Banchero, KD, Butler, single players hitting 6 from 6, 20% more points than their average. Single players by position also killing it against the Pacers. So when you look at that, it looks really good. 30 to 40 minutes, I'll set to 38, makes sense. Entire season he's averaging 22.7. No RJ Barrett tonight, so that definitely helps with usage. We can see that usage goes up by 4%, so definitely helps. Scotty Barnes is in the lineup, Quickly is in the lineup. So in those games he's averaging 24. Now playing a team that's allowing the most mid-range shots. So when we exclude like top teams in mid-range defense, he's hitting this in 6 out of 9, averaging 25. He scores most of his points as spot up, but it's only 15%. So kind of between 10 to 15% in every single area. Pick and roll ball handler, off screen, isolation. So I would not look into this spot up thing as a big thing for his under. So I won't bother much with this spot up, with this being great spot up matchup, because we can see that 50% of his points comes from the pull up, mostly in mid range. That looks great. This games against 76ers, he kind of shot horrible, 5 from 15. Against Orlando, 7 from 22. So if he shot just average, like 10 from 22, he's covering this line. So the great volume when he's placing teams whole out of. Yeah. Also great pace. Let me just check it. He already. Sorry, guys. He already played twice against them. 26 points in a close game. 11 for 23. That's what I expect from tonight. And then early game, huge blowout. AJ Barrett was playing. He will probably end up this game at 22-23 if it wasn't a blowout. And without AJ Barrett now, I do like the over. On Brandon Ingram. Moving on to the next question. Do you take into account how many times they have missed their line recently prior to the bet? Seems a lot of players never hit lines after 3 to 4 straight. 3 to 4 straight hits, and then lines adjust, and then he don't cover. So, yeah, I mean, players can hit 3 to 4 times in an easy matchup and then play in a difficult matchup. So, it's a game of buying low and selling high, and yeah, that's the best answer I can give you to that question. This may be a dumb question, but I keep thinking about if it's smarter to use the closing line filter to see how books market players based off matchups rather than the line itself. Yeah, I completely agree. I use closing lines a ton. For example, let's look at the expected minutes for Brandon Ingram. Okay, so we have expected minutes set. He is 15 and 32 against this line. But if you look at the closing lines, he's actually 20 out of 32. And when we adjust for the matchup, he's actually hitting in 68% of the games. And we can go so on and so on, like adjusting for a couple of other stuff. But yeah, I definitely use closing lines filter a lot. So this just changes win rate to the closing line at the time of that game. So yeah, I don't know which example will be the best for it. Like maybe like looking at Donovan Mitchell. But you can see that like the average is moving like by 3 to 4 points. And yeah, that's also important. It may be like Evan Mobley, max games, expected minutes. He's covered this in 61%. When we look at the closing lines, only in 50%. So he had a higher line in some of these games because some of the guys were out. If we adjust for the games when we had Mitchell, Garland playing, he covered then in 68% of the games, which is very interesting actually. But he had some minutes restrictions, so that kind of messing things up. So when you look at the closing lines and when he's playing teams who allow favorable matchups, I would say, against his position, he covered in 61%. And we like a look at the against current line, he's covered this in 77%. So when the line adjusts for the matchup, he's covering it less than usual numbers. Moving on to the next question. You like any unders? I don't know if the line still exists. I do like the Andre Hunter under. They're kind of going away from him. Last game only 18 minutes. Game before that only 21 minutes. So they're kind of going away from him. 27. This game without Mitchell, he only played 22 minutes. So they're kind of going away from him. So I expect him to play like 16 to 24 minutes. And in that scenario, he kind of averaging only 8 points and gets tough matchup against the 76ers tonight. And we include game with Mitchell was playing, even worse. With Mobley, kind of not much changes, but with Garland. So with Garland, Mitchell playing 16 to 24 minutes, he covered this in only 1 out of 7 games, averaging 7 points a game. So if I would like the under, it will be the Andre Hunter. One examples of how I look into his numbers. Because like when you look at the games with Mitchell, Garland, Merrill, Allen, and then you can see like, okay, he covered this early into the season when he played big minutes, but when we adjust for the recent minutes, like 24, he is under in all 6 games, 6 points average. So yeah, this will be my look for like the Hunter under. Moving on for the next questions. How do you start finding bets? Do you start by looking at games where injury news may happen, have a big impact? No, how do I start? I open PropsMadness and I honestly I do it I'm a professional sports bettor. I do this for a living. So I'm like going by every player. I know some of you guys are just doing it for the fun. So you actually want to like some cheat codes for like filtering out most interesting spots. But like when you are using PropsMadness every day, I promise you, after some time, you're kind of from experience know which teams are stuck where. So if I'm looking at, for example, I would say Jazz. I already know that they are allowing the most threes, most spot up threes, most catch and shoot. So I will go directly to Nikola Vucevic threes, check that. Maybe even Kobe White threes, check that. Maybe even like they allow a ton of assists, maybe even like Trey Jones assists, then checking that. So like from experience, like Bulls, horrible defense, so I will look for the overs against them. Maybe like Lauri Markkanen will be great guy to look against the Bulls. So I will just look, okay, expected minutes for Lauri. They are horrible against everything. Defensive rating, shooting zone, position. So I will go like, okay, paint defense. He scores more than 50% of his points in the paint. When he's playing teams ranked below average in the paint, he's covering in 9 out of 10, averaging 31 points. So you just look, with time, you learn the rankings from certain teams, and then you go into the research knowing that. As we can see, lastly, we were looking at Pacers. I know Pacers don't allow catch and shoot, so threes are off the chart. So they don't allow threes, they don't allow catch and shoot. So if some guy is heavily reliant on threes and catch and shoot to cover the lines, maybe I try to find some unders. If I know a guy is taking a lot of shots as from mid-range and as pick and roll ball handler, okay, I'm trying to find that guy against the Pacers for the over. So it's just learning the team's rankings and then knowing where to attack and where to look. For example, Nets are one of the best teams against pick and roll ball handlers. Yeah, they are ranked 1. So, and they don't allow above the break 3. So looking at, for example, Poole, not betting his under because he's been cooking lately. But look at this. He scores 56% above the break 3. They're second best. Most of his points as pick and roll ball handler, they are the best. So I will definitely look into betting an under in this case. But I already know, before even checking the numbers, I know where are the Nets ranked, if that makes any sense. So I know which guys to check first. Hope that helps with the question. Moving on to the next question. Peyton Watson. Question about Peyton Watson. Sure, there is a chance both Gordon and Murray sits, and then in that case, he's kind of well suited for a big game. But yeah, honestly, don't have much opinion on Peyton Watson. I think he's not a guy that's going to average like these numbers. It's insane. He did improve. He did get better, but averaging 25 points over the 8-game span is not something we can expect from Peyton Watson to last long. MPJ question about Michael Porter Jr. about points and rebounds or points alone. Rebounds with Claxton and Sharp are kind of there, though the matchup could be great for the rebounds. Yeah, in favorable matchups, he's kind of crushing this rebounding line. And he gets one today. So definitely could be a spot for adding rebounds to his points and rebounds. If you take a look at points and rebounds in good matchups for rebounding, he is actually covering this unbelievably. Yeah. So when you look at the against position, maybe, even though they are great, against defensive rating, poor defensive rating. Yeah, he already had 44 against the mirror distance, so could be a good spot. Would you say you play more into team weakness on defense versus player-specific strengths? Is it more important for a team to be very bad at spot-up mid-range versus the player being strong at mid-range? It's kind of overlap of these both, like finding a player that's strong in mid-range, and if I like other stuff from him, the team he's facing doesn't need to be horrible at mid-range, but needs to be like at least not great at it. So sometimes I bet the over. Like I had Trey Johnson. I had Trey Johnson against the Phoenix Suns, and Phoenix Suns are kind of great at the stuff that he defends, at the stuff where he scores. But the number just were off. Like, I bet him because he was averaging, this line was 12.5 and he was averaging 14.5 with those minutes and already cooked them. And even though they were great in all of the way, like he scores above the break threes, his dominant play type, I still ended up betting it because I just think the line was way, way too low for him. So kind of goes, like, it's not simple, I would say that. Thank you. Josh Hart. I already spoke about Josh Hart. Also, is layering filters better or worse? I find the more filters, the smaller the sample size. Is my approach wrong? Okay, so you definitely need to have some sample size So don't overdo it. But combining 2 or 3 filters is probably the best way to go. Don't do like 10 filters, but for example, setting the minutes well, that's the first filter. Like I did with let me just get it. Which bet did I share that makes sense to use filters? Let me go back to it. It was, I don't know, maybe Mitchell example, setting expected minutes using both Garland and Mobley, then checking defensive rating maybe, and then points in the paint allowed. So like stacking maybe 2, I would say like setting expected minutes and then stacking maybe 1 to 2 filters probably works the best in most cases. If you end up using 8 filters, you're kind of trying to make it look good rather than it actually being correlated. If you kind of understand what I'm trying to say here, yeah, you shouldn't be trying to like make it look good. You should actually look for correlation and stuff that makes sense. Sometimes you can find like opposite of filters like working. For example, maybe like for Ingram, like defensive, just a second, expected minutes, like using some defensive rating, like he's scoring 22 in challenging and 20, like same amount in challenging and favorable matchups. There are guys that like he's scoring more in challenging matchup against his second dominant shooting zone than he's scoring in favorable. That doesn't make sense. So that doesn't, you shouldn't be using that one as an example. Like, so yeah, you need to figure out what's important, what's not, which is not easy. And winning in betting is not easy, but I think with PropsMadness and with improving your skill, definitely possible for anyone that has at least some grasp of how it works. And yeah. Okay, so we are 30 minutes into it. Questions stop coming, so shoot a couple of more questions. I'll go into them and then we'll be done for today. But loving the questions to today, like some of the questions were really good. So yeah, hope I helped you. I've seen the good stuff from the chat today. Appreciate you guys. So I'm here for like 35 to 40 minutes once a week. So if you have any betting questions related, just shoot. I am more than willing to help and respond. SAR 3-point ladder question against the Clippers. Let's see how. So Towns 0 threes, Quentin Post only 2 attempts, Stewart 1 attempt, Klingon 3 attempts, Şengün. So Clippers kind of not allowing ton. And I don't think SAR is matched with Brook Lopez, who will definitely be in a drop coverage. So I don't know. Honestly, 2+ price is great, but lately he hasn't been shooting threes. Like you can see, like he averaging 2.5 attempts lately, which is much lower than early into the season. So yeah, will definitely, yeah, not a big spot for me, honestly. Cody Williams under assist. Okay, that does sound interesting. Like this guy is horrible. Let's look at the entire season. Lauri Markkanen just been ruled questionable, so definitely going to be careful about that one. But I do expect Cody to play at least 16 minutes, maybe even 18. So in those games, he averaging 1.3 assists. Let's look at potential assist. Only 1.3. So, yeah. Could be a good spot, actually. But Bulls allow a ton of assists, so I don't know. It's just minus 140, minus 135. So with that price and with possibility of a lot of players being out and him getting big run, maybe good spot, but nothing incredible. Yeah. Murray Bulls, my recent addition to my fantasy team. Colin Murray Bulls rebounds. Mamu Kelashvili being questionable and Diego being ruled out definitely makes it interesting. He could end up playing like 24 minutes at least. In those minutes, he's averaging 9 rebounds a game. And Pacers are like horrible at rebounding. So when we'll exclude the toughest matchup for rebounds against the Rockets, when he's playing 24 plus minutes, he's averaging 10 rebounds a game. Honestly, this looks sweet. And the games that he didn't cover, like he was horrible at converting rebounding chances. He's averaging 17 rebounding chances. I mean, maybe you just find a great bet. I hate betting rebounds, I'll be honest, but this one does look great, and we can see that Pacers allow a ton of rebounds, like 27th ranked, 22 against position. When he's playing favorable against position, that doesn't change much. So, yeah, could be a good spot, especially if Sandro Mamu Kelashvili gets ruled out. Then it's basically like Scotty Barnes and Murray Bulls rebounding. So yeah, this could be a good spot. Let's just see. Last 15 rebounding allowed. Doesn't change much for the Pacers. So they're still horrible. So yeah, this could be a good bet actually. Nice fun. Do you use any AI to help identify bets? Nope. I'll show you. I bet Royce O'Neal to hit 3 threes last night. So I actually know how to calculate this, but I just put it in the ChatGPT to tell me like, was it a good bet? So, I mean, I obviously know that he shot 8 threes, so it's a good bet, but I wanted to know like how much of a good bet is it. So 41% shooter takes 8 attempts, and I bet over 2.5 threes at minus 122, and asking him how big of an edge that is long term. He said, guy is shooting 41%, taking 8 attempts, is going to make 3 plus threes in 70% of the games. Minus 122 price means we need 55% to break even. So the edge was, or long-term edge on 8 attempts was 15%, extremely large edge. So I know how to calculate this by hand, but it will take me like 5 minutes, and I can just put it in ChatGPT and ask him, and end up knowing it like in 30 seconds or less. So one of the example, I could use ChatGPT or AI for my betting. Check Sadiq Bey. Sadiq Bey. What do I need to check for Sadiq Bey? Let's check Sadiq Bey with Trey Murphy, Zion Williamson, Jordan Poole, Derek Queen, and Fierce playing. In those games with expected minutes, which is probably like 22 to 32. Last game 32, game before that. Okay, so in those minutes he's averaging 12 points. We have 13 line, 13 and a half. Maybe points, rebounds, and assists, or points and rebounds. Still doesn't look great. Let's look at the minutes. He played 32 last game, 34 game before that. But that was without Herb Jones, who is questionable today. Jose Alvarado. I mean, he could end up playing more minutes. So maybe 24 to 34. And then it looks better. But Nets are 6th best defense over the last 15 games. Allowing 4th least catch and shoot. 4th slowest pace. The least threes. So not my type of bet, honestly. Even though the hit rates last couple of games does look incredibly well for him, but bunch of stuff that needs to be taken into account before placing a bet. Guys, I'll give the stream a like. Definitely appreciate all the support, comments, likes, subscribes to the channel. I'm waiting for one more question, and then I'll end the show for today, and we'll have next one probably the next week. As usual, trying to do at least once per week. If you have huge slates, maybe even twice. Waiting for that last question. If it doesn't happen next 30 seconds, I'll then just end the stream, guys. Do you watch any of the games, and do you find it harder to enjoy them if you have the bets on? So, I started props betting in 2015. Throughout 2015 to like 2024, so like 9 years, I watched like 70 to 80% of all games. I will just spend the entire night looking at games, trying to find angles. And then recently, since we created PropsMadness, I've been watching the games a lot less and still winning at the same amount, because from the years I got the experience and learned a lot. So now I just watch a couple of games a day. Like I've watched 2 to 3 games a day, and before it was like 7 to 8 because I have all the data in PropsMadness. Sometimes I'll just recheck the games to see like maybe some changes in defensive scheme, but I can read defensive schemes for PropsMadness. For example, if you take a look at Brooklyn Nets, as I said, used an example. From seeing team not allowing above the break threes and not allowing pick and roll ball handler, I already know they are kind of hedging the pick and rolls, or maybe even blitzing pick and roll ball handlers. They are allowing then ton of I don't know how to explain, like ton of catch and shoot usually, but somehow they are great lately. But then they are just rotating and then ended up with giving up layups or stuff. So kind of can look at the data and know what's the scheme. Maybe like, I don't know who is playing let me just find Minnesota. Okay, I've been looking at Wolves. I don't know who is playing the Wolves next. I can't open it on the PropsMadness, but like when I look into the PropsMadness data, I can already predict what's the defensive scheme from the teams. Do I enjoy them if I have bets on? I definitely enjoy games when I have the overs. I don't enjoy games when I have the unders. It's so awkward to watch, especially if it's some like under 1.5 threes, under 0.5 threes, under 1.5 assists. Definitely don't enjoy watching those. But yeah, when I have the overs, so it's completely okay. What's one of features of PropsMadness that you feel goes overlooked but gives tremendous insight? Need to think about it one. Definitely no one is using last 15, and I think they definitely should. I think most people now use expected minutes. Before we added expected minutes, I think people were horrible at projecting minutes. They were just from the ones I looked into, I've seen a bunch of stuff that's just using like, okay, these guys played 35, 30, 45, 38. Some people will just do like, okay, when he plays 32 plus. But you need to exclude outliers when he played like more minutes, because it was an overtime and a bunch of other stuff. What's one thing that people don't use? I think overall filters are not used properly. I will say that's common thing, but it's a bit more advanced. So yeah, people do need to have some time and experience to know how to use them. In your opinion, what's decent ROI over the NBA season? Okay, so I'll maybe go on a big rant about this one. ROI is absolutely not an important thing for betting. I mean, it's important if you are like a tout and you're sharing picks, so you want to show how profitable you are. But the only thing that matters is the amount of money won. So if you are having 15% ROI and you're betting like 2 to 3 bets a day, someone that has 5% ROI but has 15 bets a day is making a ton of more money than you are actually. So in that case, you actually prefer to have lower ROI. So you should find the right balance between ROI you are comfortable with and the volume you are comfortable with. So if you are having huge ROI, you need to probably take more shots to increase your returns. So you need to find something in the middle, but I would say you should probably aim for a good volume and ROI between like 5 to 6%. I think that's absolutely amazing and works really well. And the last question, is PropsMadness available in app format now? We put the testing app version out. So we are working into improving it, getting the feedback, fixing all the bugs and mistakes, and then we'll release it to the public. We are waiting for some approvals from the App Store, but it's coming soon. So if there's no more question, guys, thank you. I think this I think it was sixth live we did, and I think these were the best questions I ever had on the live session. So really appreciate you guys. Keep them coming into the next one, and yeah, see you into the next one. Bye, guys.